He said I'd never find someone like him again. And he was right. While he was busy hiding hotel keys and deleting texts, I was learning how to leave without slamming the door. Now he watches from a distance, while I live the life he swore I'd never find without him. The night I knew something was wrong, I wasn't even snooping. I was just cleaning. It was one of those idle Thursday evenings. Quiet rain tapping the window, my playlist humming softly in the background, and me on the floor rearranging books while reheating the last of the mushroom risotto. Lucas was in the shower. His phone lit up on the counter beside the sink, and without even intending to look, my eyes caught the first few words of the notification. You make me feel wanted. He just feeds you. I make you full. I don't remember breathing for the next few seconds. I just sat there, the steaming bowl in my hands going cold. He had changed his passcode last month. I didn't ask why. Now I knew. By the time he came out in a towel, humming, cheeks flushed from the hot water, I had already set the table. Risotto, garlic bread, wine. He didn't notice anything different. Smells amazing, he said, sliding behind me to kiss my neck. I smiled. I thought you deserved something warm tonight. He took his seat, scrolled his phone, laughed at something. I watched him spoon the food into his mouth like a man who never missed a meal. And I wondered, how many lies had he fed me while chewing with that same grin? Later, he made some excuse about finishing up a client report and retreated to the home office. I sat on the couch, staring at the muted TV screen. I could see his reflection in the hallway mirror. Bare chest, towel long gone, fingers flying over his laptop. The way he smiled at the screen wasn't the way he smiled at me. I didn't move. Didn't cry. I opened my own laptop and pulled up his cloud backups. He always synced his devices. Said it was for security. Well, he was about to find out how secure that really was. It didn't take long. There was a message from her from earlier that day. Can we try that rooftop place again? I want to kiss you while the sun sets this time. And then a selfie. She was wearing my necklace. The one I thought I'd lost months ago. A delicate gold chain with a tiny crescent moon pendant. I'd bought it in Florence before I met Lucas. It had been mine long before he ever laid eyes on me. But now it lay between her bare collarbones and her smile looked too smug to be accidental. Lucas had always been good with words. He was a copywriter after all. In his replies to her, he wasn't just sweet. He was intimate in a way I hadn't heard from him in months. He told her she made him feel alive. He told her I was predictable. He told her I loved cooking more than loving him. That night, while he slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and memorized every insult he had typed. The next day I left for work early. But I didn't go to the office. I went to his favorite cafe instead. The one where he always said he went when he needed to clear his head. I sat in the corner with a latte and watched the door. Sure enough, around 10:07 he walked in with her. She looked younger than I expected. Not that much younger, but enough. She wore a silk blouse tucked into too tight jeans. Lucas said he didn't like women who tried too hard. Guess that rule didn't apply to women who weren't me. I watched them order matching cappuccinos. Watched him laugh when she smeared foam on his nose. Watched her wipe it off like she owned the right to touch his face. I took a picture. Then another. Then I left. That evening I greeted him with the same warmth I always had. I kissed his cheek. Told him dinner would be late. Poured him his favorite bourbon. Rough day? I asked, letting my fingers linger on his shoulder. He leaned into me. So much better now. Liar. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead I started preparing. Every night for a week I packed 1 or 2 boxes. Nothing noticeable. I canceled joint subscriptions, rerouted my mail, opened a new bank account under my maiden name. He didn't notice a thing. That was the thing about men like Lucas. They never see the storm until it's already above them, thundering. The tipping point came on a Sunday. He was in the kitchen making coffee while I folded laundry on the couch. His phone buzzed with another message. This time I was fast. He had left it face up. The message read, I want to stay over again. I miss the way you hold me. Tell her you're on a business trip or something. He was standing 5 feet away. And I still smiled at him like nothing was wrong. That night he held me while we slept. And I thought about how I would break the news. Not with screaming. Not with tears. But with facts. With receipts. With a beautifully orchestrated exit. The kind that makes a man sit up at 2 a.m. years later and wonder how he ever lost something so silently. I didn't ask him to confess. Men like Lucas never do it on their own. They wait to be caught. They wait until the evidence is stacked so high it becomes suffocating. Then they twist the narrative, pretend they were confused, say it wasn't serious. But I wasn't waiting for a confession. I was building a case. On Monday morning while he was still asleep, I made him breakfast. Sunny side up. 3 strips of bacon. Freshly squeezed orange juice. The way he liked it. I watched him eat like nothing had changed. Like there weren't messages from another woman still warm in his inbox. He kissed my cheek and left for work, thanking me for the eggs. I smiled sweetly and waved goodbye. Then I called my lawyer. Her name was Marissa. She had a voice like silk and claws under her sleeves. I want everything prepared, I told her. All the financial records. The prenup he made me sign. Every clause. She flipped through the documents I sent over. It's airtight on his end, she said. But we can work around it. Infidelity clauses. Emotional distress. Proof of deception. I have more than enough of that, I said. Good. Let's go slow. Let's go smart. By Thursday I had printed screenshots of every text. Her calling him baby. Him saying I was too distracted to notice. Her thanking him for choosing her. Even the one where he said, it'll be easier to leave her once the bonus clears. She can keep the damn kitchen. Why would? And I'd make sure it burned into his memory. That weekend, we were invited to a friend's engagement party. I wore red. Not the soft kind, the kind you wear to war. He said I looked beautiful. Said he was lucky. I just smiled and adjusted the chain around my neck. The same one the mistress had borrowed in her hotel selfie. He was there too. Of course she was. Her eyes widened when she saw me. She looked guilty, then nervous. Then shockingly she smiled, like she still believed she had the upper hand. Lucas introduced us. This is Anna, he said quickly. She's in PR. Helped us with the campaign launch. I extended my hand and shook hers lightly. I've heard so much about you, I said. She froze. Oh. I looked her dead in the eye for 15 seconds straight. She blinked, visibly shaken. Lucas didn't notice. He was already laughing at something across the room. Of course he didn't notice. He never noticed the little things. That's why this would work. The next morning he asked me if I'd seen his black card. I shrugged. Didn't you give it to Anna for her PR supplies? He stared at me. How did you? You posted it, I lied smoothly. In your stories. He believed me. Because again, men like him don't realize how easy it is to catch them. They don't know they've already handed you the key. A week later I took the day off work. Lucas thought I was at a spa retreat with my girlfriends. In reality I was at our bank. Marissa had helped me file a financial freeze. Just temporary, to protect my separate assets. She made sure the account where my paycheck was deposited every month had been legally shifted to a solo trust. She also helped me schedule a forensic audit of our joint account. Turns out Lucas had been siphoning funds steadily for months. Small transactions. Fancy dinners. A few hotel charges tucked into his business statements. Expensive perfumes billed under client gifts. The level of insult was almost artistic. But I didn't get angry. I got clever. On our anniversary he forgot the date. I had been counting down. He came home late, flowers in hand, obviously bought in a panic. They were out of your favorite kind, he said. I took them. They're lovely. He smiled, relieved. I booked us dinner. Just us. Oh, I said. I already ate. He blinked. With who? My lawyer, I said. We're working on something exciting. He didn't press. He never did. That weekend I told him I wanted to have a proper dinner, at home. Just the two of us. No distractions, I said. Let's turn our phones off. Just for one night. He looked surprised. Then pleased. He didn't even realize he was walking into a trap. I cooked everything he loved. Filet mignon, roasted garlic, mashed potatoes, caramelized carrots. I opened the wine. Poured it generously. He clinked glasses with me. To us. To us, I echoed. We ate. And when the last bite was gone I walked into the living room and turned on the TV. He stared as a slideshow flickered on the screen. The photos were time-stamped. One after another. Her laughing in his shirt. Him kissing her hand in public. Messages scrolling in big bold font across the screen. His face drained of all color. I didn't say a word. I just watched him watch himself unravel. When the final image faded to black, he looked at me. Jules. I raised a hand. Don't. A word. He opened his mouth again. I cut him off. Save your breath. You're going to need it when the judge asks why you violated your prenup's fidelity clause in 3 different hotel chains. His voice cracked. How long have you known? Long enough. His jaw tightened. So this dinner, what was a setup? No, I said calmly. The dinner was real. I really did want one last moment with the man I used to love. I stepped forward and handed him an envelope. Inside, my attorney's card, a notarized statement of assets, and a printed calendar of his infidelity. He didn't touch it. Where are you going? He asked. I'm not the one leaving, I replied. You are. His brows furrowed. I stepped aside, revealing 2 movers standing silently by the hallway. They're here for your things, I said. You have 20 minutes. I'll be back after that. He looked stunned. You're kicking me out? No, I said. You cheated your way out. Then I walked upstairs. I sat on the bed, back straight, heart still. I heard drawers opening. Clothes being packed. The sound of him cursing under his breath. I heard him stomp to the front door. Then hesitate. Finally I heard it close. Gently. Not with a slam. Even in defeat, Lucas was still trying to look like he had control. But he didn't. I did. I didn't cry after Lucas left. I didn't pour wine and stare dramatically out the window either. I cleaned the house. Top to bottom. Stripped the sheets. Threw out his shampoo. Removed his sneakers from the hallway. Wiped the mirror he used every morning like it owed him compliments. It felt mechanical at first. Scrub, rinse, toss, repeat. But by the time I emptied the last drawer of his old college tees, the ones he always refused to donate, it felt like I was wringing him out of the walls. Out of my ear. I changed the locks that afternoon. He tried texting the next day. Can we just talk? I didn't even get to explain. You blindsided me. Blindsided? The word made me laugh. As if he hadn't been cheating for months behind my back while I was making him breakfast and investing in our future. I didn't respond. Then he called. 6 times. The last voicemail was the most honest I'd heard his voice in a long time. Jules. You were always the better one. I was weak. I don't know why I did it. Please just let me fix it. I listened to it once. Then deleted it. For the first time in nearly 5 years I grocery shopped alone. I didn't have to buy almond milk for his shakes or count calories on the labels because Lucas didn't like feeling bloated. I wandered into the candy aisle for no reason at all. Picked out a box of dark chocolate truffles I knew he'd always rolled his eyes at. I threw it in the cart and smiled to myself. There's something powerful about reclaiming even the smallest pleasures. 3 days after he left, he showed up. I knew he would. Men like Lucas don't vanish quietly. The knock came while I was folding laundry. It was timid at first, then firmer. I opened the door but didn't step aside. He stood there in a hoodie and worn jeans trying to look casual. His hair was unbrushed. His eyes had bags under them. I had never seen him look so human. Hey, he said, voice low. Lucas. He took a deep breath. I needed to see you. Please. I gave you your chance. I know, he said quickly. And I was stupid. I messed it up. But can we sit? Talk like adults. I looked at him for a long time. Then stepped back. Not because I wanted to hear him out. But as I wanted to end it clean. We sat at the kitchen table. The same one he used to eat at while complimenting my risotto and texting her under the table. He looked around. You changed stuff. I said nothing. He ran his hand over his face. Jules, I've been a wreck. She's gone. I ended it. It didn't mean anything, I swear. I was just lonely. I thought you were pulling away. I tilted my head. So you found someone more available. He flinched. No. That's not. Yes, it is, I interrupted. She was convenient. Naive. He got to play the mentor. The poor misunderstood man. He didn't deny it. Instead he shifted tactics. Remember that night at the engagement party? He asked. I raised a brow. Where you introduced me to her. He winced. I panicked. You lied. I did, he admitted. And it kills me. I miss you. I looked at him for a long beat. Do you miss me or the life I gave you? His throat bobbed. Both. That, at least, was honest. He stood slowly. Moved around the table. I want to come back. No. I'll change. No, you won't. Please. I stood too. Calm. Steady. You cheated. You lied. You belittled me to someone who wore my necklace and slept in my sheets. She didn't mean anything. She meant enough for you to gamble everything. Lucas reached for my hand. I stepped back. I don't hate you, I said quietly. But I want nothing from you. Not guilt. Not apologies. Not redemption. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. Please don't come back here again. He looked like he wanted to argue. But something in my tone told him not to. He walked to the door. Hand on the knob, he turned back one last time. I loved you, he said. And maybe once he did. But it didn't matter now. I said nothing. He left. The silence afterward felt like music. I threw myself into work the next few weeks. Late nights at the office. Early morning runs. Dinner alone, lit only by a small lamp in the corner. I didn't feel lonely. I felt free. My coworkers began to notice. You seem lighter, my manager commented one afternoon. Did something good happen? Yes, I replied. Something finally ended. She nodded as if she understood. A few months later I got promoted. New title. Bigger office. Better pay. I celebrated quietly, with takeout sushi, champagne, and a new pair of heels I didn't need but absolutely deserved. That night I walked past the mirror and really looked at myself. I wasn't the same woman who had once tried to shrink her silence to make room for a man's excuses. I had teeth now. And I'd learned to bite. It was around that time I started seeing someone new. Nothing serious at first. Just coffee and conversations. His name was Theo. He was kind in the quiet way. Thoughtful. Gentle hands. Deep voice. No pretense. He once told me, I'd never lie to someone just to keep them. That's not love. That's control. And something inside me loosened. One night as we were walking back from dinner, he stopped under a flickering streetlight and turned to me. Tell me honestly, he said. Am I just the man after the storm? I smiled. You're not after the storm. You're the first man I met when the sky cleared. He looked like he didn't know what to say. So I kissed him. It took about 4 more weeks before Lucas resurfaced. I knew it was coming. Men like him don't know what to do with silence. They can survive fights, shouting, even a door slammed in their face. But when you don't react at all, when you go on living without mentioning their name, without wondering where they are or what they're doing, that's when they break. It started with a random email. Thought of you today. Hope the new job's going well. I didn't reply. 3 days later. Saw your favorite flowers today. Made me think of your balcony garden. Do you still keep rosemary by the window? I deleted it. Then came the Venmo payment. $5. The note read. For that one time I forgot your latte order. Still feel bad. Cute. Walked. You must have tried harder after that because suddenly I got a call from HR. Hi Julia, my assistant said hesitantly. There was a man outside earlier. Pass for you. Said he wanted to drop off a gift. I sighed. Let me guess. 10. Looks like he gets his confidence from Instagram comments. He laughed, awkward. He didn't seem dangerous. Just desperate. Sounds about right. Do you want us to alert security if he comes again? Yes. And no gifts. No notes. No him. By the end of that week, my building concierge sent me a message. Miss Landon, someone left flowers and a letter at the front desk. Do you want them delivered upstairs? I typed back. Oh, please dispose. And add him to the do not let in list. I almost added, and tell him I'm allergic to red flags, but decided to keep it professional. Theo found out a week later when I finally told him. We were in his apartment, curled up on the couch. He had just made me tea and there was jazz playing faintly in the background. Lucas came by my office, I said, not looking up. Theo didn't tense. He didn't puff up. He didn't ask what Lucas said. He just waited. I looked at him. I didn't respond. I never do. He nodded. Do you want to talk about it? I took a sip of my tea. I don't even feel angry anymore. I just feel done. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against mine. That's the best kind of ending, he said. The kind that doesn't need fire. Just distance. I didn't see Lucas again. until he made the mistake of showing up at a friend's wedding. I had RSVP'd yes months ago and it never occurred to me he might be on the list. But there he was 2 rows ahead during the ceremony. Alone. I'd recognize the back of that head anywhere. When he turned during the champagne hour and caught sight of me, he froze. I was wearing green satin. Hair up. Confident. Unapologetic. His mouth parted like he wanted to say something, but couldn't. Theo slipped his hand into mine. Lucas's gaze dropped to our fingers. Then he turned away. Later that evening, while waiting at the valet, Lucas approached. Theo had gone to grab us drinks for the ride. I saw Lucas's shadow first. Then the nervous clearing of his throat. "You look amazing," he said. I didn't answer. He glanced at the envelope in my hand, the one with the wedding favor inside. "That color suits you. You always did look good in green." Still nothing. He shifted. "So, that guy. Is he?" "Kind," I said. "Respectful. Quiet when he needs to be. Loud when it matters." Lucas flinched. "I never wanted to hurt you." I finally looked at him. "You just didn't care if you did." His face twisted. "I lost everything, you know." "That's not my fault," I said. "But I still love you." "I don't care." He blinked. "I mean that kindly," I added. "I really, truly, don't care anymore." Lucas laughed then. But it wasn't mocking. It was hollow. "Do you ever think about us?" he asked. I tilted my head. No. That was the worst thing I could have said to him. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. He had become a memory I didn't need. He stepped closer, his voice dipping into that tone he used when he wanted something. "You were always the smarter one. The more stable one. I thought I wanted excitement. But I needed you." I raised an eyebrow. "Needed? I'm not a vitamin, Lucas. I'm not something you take when you're deficient." He flinched again. Right then Theo returned. Handed me a glass of elderflower tonic. Slipped his other hand around my waist naturally, easily. "Everything good here?" he asked, glancing at Lucas briefly. Lucas said nothing. I smiled at Theo. "Perfect." Theo nodded at Lucas politely. "Nice to meet you." Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it again. He stepped back. "Goodbye, Jules." "It's Julia," I corrected. He winced. I watched him walk away. His shoulders slouched. Hands in his pockets. No fight left in his steps. In the car ride home, Theo didn't say much. Just drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my thigh, thumb gently stroking back and forth. I leaned my head against the window and closed my eyes. Not from sadness, but from peace. Real, full-bodied, silent peace. There's a strange quiet that follows closure. Not the hollow kind that aches, but the kind that hums beneath the skin, like a room once filled with noise finally learning how to breathe. After that wedding night, Lucas didn't try again. No more emails. No texts. No flowers at the office or casual drop-ins dressed as coincidence. He vanished. And I let him. Because for the first time in years I wasn't living in reaction to someone else. Theo and I weren't perfect. But we were honest. He didn't try to fix me or make me talk about the past more than I wanted to. Instead, he gave me space when I needed it and warmth when I asked for it. Some nights we made dinner together. Quiet domestic things like lemon pasta and roasted vegetables. Some nights we just sat in silence, sharing a blanket and the kind of comfort that doesn't need filling. It was slow, but not hesitant. Like planting a garden after a wildfire, you don't rush the growth. You just let it reach for the light on its own. Professionally, I started taking up more space. At work, I proposed a new campaign, one that highlighted resilience stories from women entrepreneurs. My boss loved it. Clients responded. I was invited to speak at a regional conference. 3 months after that, I was promoted again. A year earlier, I might have told Lucas about every step. Now, I barely remembered he existed when the award came in. And then one evening, something unexpected happened. I was at home sorting through an old storage box when I found it, an old Polaroid from 3 summers ago. Lucas and me sitting on the back steps of a cabin rental. I was in a hoodie 2 sizes too big, hair still damp from swimming. He had his arms slung around me, both of us grinning like idiots. For a second I stared at it. Not with longing. Not even with pain. Just a detachment. Like reading a journal entry you don't remember writing. That version of me, the girl in the photo, she still believed love was keeping the peace. That forgiveness was proof of strength. I placed the photo back in the box and closed the lid. Some things didn't need revisiting. A few days later I ran into Claire, one of Lucas's old co-workers. We exchanged a quick hello at the cafe and she hesitated before sitting at the table beside mine. "You look good, Julia," she corrected. "Thanks." She sipped her drink then blurted, "I saw Lucas a few weeks ago. He's not doing well." I didn't ask. He went on anyway. "He left his job 6 months ago. Something about a fallout with a client. I think he's freelancing now, but," she trailed off, twisting her napkin. "It's like he aged 10 years overnight." I just nodded. Claire tilted her head. "You don't want to know the rest?" I gave her a small smile. "What would I do with the information?" She blinked. "I guess I thought you'd want closure." "I already have it." She left shortly after, still looking mildly confused. Like she'd brought a warning, only to find the door had already been locked and bolted. That night I told Theo about the run-in. He raised an eyebrow. "And how did that make you feel?" "Like I dodged a building," I said. He chuckled. "That big, huh?" I nodded. "Skyscraper-sized." We didn't talk about Lucas after that. Not because we were avoiding it, but because it wasn't relevant anymore. He had become like a town I once lived in. When I left for good. When I only thought about when passing signs on the highway. I didn't regret my time there. But I had no desire to return. It's strange, the small freedoms you notice only after walking away. Like how my apartment stayed clean without effort. Or how my clothes no longer carried the scent of cologne I didn't wear. Or how I no longer watched the clock, calculating whether he was just working late, or out making new promises to someone else. Now I filled my space with things I actually liked. Books with messy spines, deep maroon throw pillows, and too many candles I never lit. No compromises. No waiting. Just me. And the life I was building brick by brick. One Sunday morning, Theo and I went hiking just outside the city. It wasn't strenuous, but by the time we reached the top I was out of breath and laughing. He sat beside me on a rock, handing me water. "You still good?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. "Better than good," I said. The view stretched out before us. Rolling hills, scattered trees, the faint outline of the city skyline in the distance. Theo glanced sideways. "Can I ask you something a little scary?" "Always." "If he came back again, if he apologized, really meant it, would you forgive him?" I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I wanted to choose my words carefully. "I already forgave him," I said at last. "But forgiveness doesn't mean welcome. I can forgive what he broke, and still never let him touch anything I build again." Theo nodded slowly. "That's more powerful than no." "I think so too." And for the first time I realized, my story didn't end when I left him. It began. 3 weeks after the hike, I received an email from our regional director at work. Subject line: "Client alert. Finalist for brand renewal project, Carter and Lang Group." I stared at it for a beat longer than I meant to. Carter and Lang was Lucas's old agency. The one he once wouldn't stop bragging about. "We build brands from scratch. We tell stories no one else knows how to tell," he used to say while swirling whiskey like it made the words smarter. Apparently they were now rebranding. Internally fractured, image tarnished, struggling to stay relevant. I opened the brief. The rebrand campaign had been put up for pitch and our agency was one of the final 3 shortlisted. The project would be high visibility. International rollout. Big numbers. High stakes. And I was already penciled in as lead strategist. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. I didn't bring it up to Theo right away. Not out of fear, just timing. That night we were cooking dinner in my kitchen. He was chopping onions like it was a sport, eyes squinting behind fogged-up glasses. I was sautéing garlic in olive oil, the scent sharp and grounding. "Guess who's back in my work orbit?" I said. He didn't even look up. "Lucas." I blinked. "How do you know?" "You've got that look you get when something stupid brushes up against your calm." I laughed, startled. "Is that really a thing?" He grinned. "You crinkle your nose." "Just barely." I turned off the burner. His old agency is one of the clients up for rebrand. I'm running point. Theo paused, knife in midair. "That is poetic." "I know. Are you okay with it?" I thought about it. "I think I'm actually looking forward to it." The following Monday we had the preliminary client meeting. I dressed with intention. Sharp navy trousers, white silk blouse, gold hoops. Not too flashy. Not forgettable either. When I walked into the conference room I scanned the table. And there he was. Lucas. Not sitting at the head of the table like he once might have been, but off to the side. A little faded. A little smaller than I remembered. He looked up and for a moment his expression didn't register me. Then it hit. His mouth opened slightly. His posture stiffened. I took my seat opposite him, didn't so much as blink. My team began the presentation. I led the first portion, positioning insights, target demographics, tone audits. He stared through half of it. The way someone does when watching a ghost wear lipstick and walk upright. After the meeting he tried. Of course he did. Julia, he said as I packed up my notes. Can we talk? I looked at him. Not unkindly. About the pitch? I asked coolly. He hesitated. No. I mean, about us. There is no us. Not in this room. Not outside it. Just a woman doing her job, and a man trying to stay relevant. He flinched. I tucked my pen into my folder. If you want the contract, speak through proposals. Not nostalgia. And I left. Later that night I got a text from an unknown number. You were brilliant today. I forgot how commanding you are when you walk into a room. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later. I mean it. It's been hard to watch you become the person I used to only imagine you'd grow into. Delete. Book. Done. The next round of proposals was more intense. My team stayed up late several nights refining the vision, tone, rollout plan. On the final day of presentation I stood in front of a full panel. Our execs, their execs, outside observers. Lucas sat in the back row this time. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. My voice filled the room. My ideas took root. And when we won the contract a week later, the client sent a short note. Your leadership was the deciding factor. Exceptional work. I framed it. Not because of Lucas. But because of me. Because that table, the one I used to think I was lucky to sit at, I now owned the seat at the head. 2 Fridays after the announcement, Theo took me out to celebrate. The restaurant was small, romantic, tucked between bookshops and boutiques. As we finished dessert, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small black box. I froze. But when he opened it, it wasn't a ring. It was a silver key. To my place, he said, eyes searching mine. I smiled slowly. Are you asking me to move in? Only if you want to. I closed the box and held it in my palm. I'll think about it. He chuckled. That's fair. That night, lying in his bed, I thought about where I was a year ago. Packing boxes. Scrubbing betrayal out of dish towels. Listening to a man justify hurting me like it was a shared responsibility. No. I was building something again. But this time with someone who never made me feel like I had to earn basic decency. And somewhere in the city I imagined Lucas in a quiet room. Opening and closing his inbox. Wondering why my name no longer appeared. Looking at the brand campaign his agency now proudly displayed. Knowing the voice behind it didn't think of him once while creating it. And that silence. That was the loudest goodbye of all. I kept the key in my purse for a week. Not because I wasn't sure about Theo. But because I'd spent so much of my past giving pieces of myself to the wrong hands. I didn't want to confuse safety with familiarity. Or comfort with love. I didn't want to say yes to something just because it didn't hurt. But every time I pulled the key out, ran my fingers along its smooth silver ridges, I realized something important. This wasn't a key to someone else's life. It was an invitation to ours. That Sunday I cooked. Not for Theo. Not even for a special reason. Just for me. I put on soft music, let sunlight flood the kitchen and moved like I used to, before Lucas, before apologizing for seasoning things too much, or buying unnecessary groceries. I made rosemary focaccia and lemon risotto and roasted peaches with brown sugar. It wasn't a meal. It was a reclamation. Theo came over later that evening with a bottle of wine and a crooked smile. I have nothing to offer except good stories and bad shoulders, he said as I opened the door. Good, I said. Because I'm hungry and emotionally well-adjusted. His laugh made the room warmer. We ate on the couch, feet tangled, and halfway through dessert I handed him the key. His eyes widened just slightly. You sure? I nodded. Let's see what it's like building something that's not made of apologies. He closed his hand over the key like it was something sacred. The next day started with a message. Not from Theo. Not from work. From a blocked number. I didn't even have to guess. You're really moving on? Just like that. After everything. There was no name. No need. I almost deleted it without responding, but then I paused. He hadn't seen it yet. Not really. The difference between getting left and being replaced. So I attached a photo. Me and Theo. Wine glasses. Matching grins. The silver key shining between our fingers. I didn't add a caption. Some pictures don't need one. By noon my assistant called in a whisper. Julia? There's someone downstairs. I already knew. Who? He wouldn't give his name. But I think he's your ex. I rolled my eyes. What gave it away? He's pacing. And he's holding a folder. Like, aggressively. Tell security to remove him. There was a pause. What if he refuses? Then tell him I said this. A man who had me once should have held tighter. A man who lost me should learn to walk away better. I heard her stifle a laugh. Got it. That evening I left through the back exit. I didn't do it out of fear. Just efficiency. Theo picked me up 2 blocks down. He didn't ask any questions, just kissed my hand and cranked up the jazz. Halfway home my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. A photo this time. Lucas. Sitting on a bench. Alone. That folder clutched in his lap. The caption said, I'm ruining everything, aren't I? Yes. But that wasn't my business anymore. I didn't respond. But I did block the number again. That would be the last time. Or so I thought. 2 nights later, Theo and I had just finished assembling a bookshelf in his living room. Our living room, I guess. We were laughing over the fact that the top shelf was definitely crooked when there was a knock at the door. Theo looked through the peephole. His jaw tightened. It's him. I didn't ask how he knew. He opened the door halfway, keeping his body firm in the frame. Lucas tried to look composed, but the tremble in his jaw gave him away. I just need to talk to her, he said. You really don't, Theo replied calmly. Lucas scoffed. I'm not here to fight. I know, Theo said. But you're still not welcome. I just need closure. Theo tilted his head. She gave you silence. That was your closure. Lucas looked over Theo's shoulder. I stepped into view. He stared at me like he'd seen a dream slip through a crack. I didn't think you'd actually pick someone else, he said quietly. I didn't pick someone else, I replied. I picked me. And he came with the life I built after. He swallowed. I loved you. You loved the idea of me. The convenience of me. Not the cost of me. He looked down, then back up. I'm not doing great. I nodded. I can tell. I thought I'd come back and find, maybe a piece of it still waiting. I stepped closer. Not for him, but for the version of me that once would have wavered. There's nothing here for you anymore, I said gently. Not because I hate you, but because I don't need to forgive you twice. He blinked. I'm falling apart. And I'm not your rescue story, I replied. You gave that up. Theo stood silently behind me. Lucas looked at him. Me. Then stepped back. You're really done. I smiled. I've been done. You're just late to the realization. He left. This time he didn't slam the door or beg or dramatize the moment. He just walked into the hallway, disappeared down the stairs. And the silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was right. Theo walked up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. You okay? I leaned back into him. I think this was the last ghost. He kissed my temple. Then we can finally sleep with the lights off. That night I slept dreamlessly. No shadows in the corners. No steps down the hall. No old memories clawing at the walls. Just breath. Peace. Life, when it's finally quiet, doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with morning sunlight on your collarbone. With coffee brewed just the way you like it without explaining how you like it. With someone who picks up the mug you always forget on the windowsill, not because you asked, but because they noticed. That was what it was like with Theo. Simple. Solid. Safe. No begging. No decoding. No knives wrapped in compliments. Just 2 people who took turns carrying the silence and sharing the laughter. We moved in together officially a month later. He cleared space in his closet without being asked. I swapped out his chipped dishes for the vintage ceramic ones I'd always wanted but never bought, because Lucas hated fancy clutter. My cabinets looked like art. I'd never realized how many tiny things I had denied myself just to be more palatable. No more. Professionally, things only rose higher. The Carter and Lang campaign became a flagship case study. Other firms reached out. One offered me a partner track role in a city I used to dream of living in. Theo didn't flinch when I brought it up. "If it excites you, take it," he said simply. "We'll make it work. Or we'll go together." I remember staring at him for a long moment, letting the words settle. Lucas had once told me I always chased too much. Theo just handed me a map and asked where we'd go next. We traveled that spring. Just a short trip. Coastal town, art galleries, a cottage by the sea. We walked barefoot through fog. Held hands over seafood stews. Read paperbacks on the porch. No social media check-ins. No one to prove anything to. Just us. Existing. And for the first time in years, I wasn't documenting moments so I could later prove I was okay. I simply was. Lucas didn't resurface for months. Not directly. But the city whispers. People talk. One afternoon, Claire, the coworker who once nervously told me he wasn't doing well, bumped into me at a networking event. She looked different. Lighter. Maybe we both wore new skin now. "I heard about the campaign," she said. "You're kind of a legend right now." I smiled. "That's kind of nice to hear." Then, hesitating, "You want to know what happened to him?" I sipped my drink, watching the crowd behind her blur. "No," I said. "But I think you want to tell me." She exhaled. "He lost the apartment. Defaulted on some freelance deals. I think he moved back in with his brother. Tried to go into consulting, but it didn't really land." I nodded. "He's different," she said almost sadly. "I hope so," I replied. "But it's not mine to watch anymore." That weekend I found one of my old journals while organizing a drawer. It was from 4 years ago, before the end. Back when I was still trying to make things work, still believing love meant endurance. I flipped through the pages. One line stopped me cold. "I think if I shrink a little more I can fit better in the space he gives me." I closed the journal. And threw it away. There was no ceremony to my healing. Just evidence. The way I said no without guilt now. The way I asked for what I needed. The way I no longer justified why I deserved softness. And most of all, the way I didn't look over my shoulder anymore. Then one late summer evening I got an unexpected call. Private number. I let it go to voicemail. Seconds later it pinged. I hesitated, then played it. "Julia. I know I promised I wouldn't reach out again. And I meant it. But I just..." Pause. His voice was ragged. I wanted to say it. Out loud. I ruined it. All of it. I thought I was smarter, faster, more clever than consequence. I wasn't. I missed the version of me you made possible. "I'm sorry." A long inhale. "I don't expect anything. I just wanted to give you back the apology I never said properly. You deserved better." He hung up. I didn't save the message. But I didn't delete it either. Because it wasn't for me anymore. It was for her. The girl who once thought silence was survival and love meant staying. And she didn't need it. That night I sat on the balcony with Theo, legs over his lap, sipping wine. "I got a message today," I said softly. He looked at me. "From him." I nodded. He waited, letting me choose the pace. He apologized. Finally. Properly. Theo didn't stiffen. Didn't scoff. Didn't feel threatened. He just looked at me like I'd turned another corner in a maze he trusted I'd find my way through. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "I don't," I said. "And that feels perfect." In the distance, a thunderstorm rolled in over the horizon. We stayed outside anyway. Not to defy it. Just to let it pass. Theo didn't say much after I told him about the voicemail. He didn't ask to hear it. He didn't try to dissect it or offer analysis like Lucas used to, twisting every apology into a power play. He just reached for my hand. Squeezed it once. And went back to reading his book with my feet in his lap. Like peace was the only thing left worth tending to. That night he cooked for me. Not as a distraction. Not to impress. Just because I had mentioned craving gnocchi last week and he remembered. I used to think love was heavy. That it came with ache, sacrifice, confusion. A ledger of who gave more, who forgave more, who bent farther without breaking. But here in this kitchen with jazz humming and flour dusted across Theo's shirt like it belonged there, I learned something else. Real love doesn't come with fireworks. comes with quiet recognition. With a man who listens when you say your favorite herb is thyme and then goes out of his way to plant it in the window box because you always forget to buy it. With a man who doesn't ask you to bleed just to prove you're invested. We danced that night. No music. Just the hum of the city through the windows, and the rhythm of two people who didn't need permission to be soft. 2 days later I got an email from an unfamiliar address. Subject: Julia Landon. A request from the family of Lucas Meyer. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. The message was short. Dear Ms. Landon, we are writing to inform you that Lucas was recently involved in a serious car accident. He survived, but sustained injuries requiring extensive rehabilitation. In sorting through his affairs, we came across a note with your name and contact details listed under personal contacts. We understand you are no longer in contact, but he requested, if anything ever happened, that we inform you. He has since declined all visitors. But we felt it was right to reach out. With respect, Ellen Meyer, Lucas's sister-in-law. I reread it twice. There was no request to visit. No plea for sympathy. Just, notice. A final bookmark. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. There was nothing unresolved. Nothing left to fix. But I did sit with the news. Lucas, once so loud in his certainty, now silent in his pain. He had broken things, me himself whatever we once was. And the universe in its ruthless poetry had stopped him mid-run. Not to punish, but to remind him that no one outruns the weight of what they leave behind. I told Theo that night. He didn't ask what I planned to do. He just listened as I read him the email. And when I finished he asked, "Do you want to see him?" I thought about it. No. Theo nodded. Then you won't. Simple as that. No guilt. No suggestion. No passive disappointment. Just alignment. Later that week I dropped the voicemail, the one Lucas had left weeks ago, into the trash folder on my phone. I didn't listen to it again. I didn't need to. He had already taken enough of my past. He wasn't getting a minute more of my present. The next morning, Theo left a small package on my desk before heading to the gym. Inside was a necklace. Simple. Gold. No pendants. No initials. Just a smooth, elegant chain that felt like sunlight when I held it up to the window. There was a note handwritten. For the neck that no longer bows for anyone. I closed my eyes and held it for a moment, breath catching. Not from pain. From being seen. That weekend I had dinner with my parents for the first time in months. They had always been cautious with my past. Careful not to bring up Lucas unless I did. But that evening as we sat around the table my mother finally spoke. You seem anchored, Julia. Is that a good thing? I teased. It's a beautiful thing, she said. You used to always look like you were scanning the room. Like you were waiting for something to explode. I smiled. I'm not waiting anymore. My father raised his glass. To a life that doesn't need rescuing. I went home that night and unpacked the last box I had kept sealed since the move. Inside were old journals, Polaroids, half-written letters never sent. I didn't read them. I just burned them on the balcony in a metal tray, watching the smoke curl into the night air like it was rising from someone else's body. Because in a way it was. A week later I received a final message. Not from Lucas. From his sister-in-law again. Thank you for not replying. That sounds odd, I know. But your silence helped close something for him. He's accepted a transfer to a long-term facility. He's finally letting go. Whatever peace you're living in, he felt it. Even from far away. I didn't reply. But I whispered thank you into the quiet anyway. Not to her. Not to him. To myself. There wasn't a dramatic finish. No grand monologue. No cinematic confrontation. No final words exchanged through glass or whispered in sterile rooms. Lucas faded. Not like a ghost but like background noise that used to irritate you until one day you realized it had gone quiet and you hadn't missed it at all. I never saw him again. And that was the cleanest ending I could have asked for. Theo and I moved again in early fall. Nothing drastic. Just to a larger apartment with better light, more space for our overflowing books, and a second room I could use as a studio. He wanted to give me a ring. I told him to wait. Not because I didn't want him. But because I did. And I wanted it with time, not out of relief or rescue. He understood that. Theo always understood the parts of me that didn't speak out loud. I started painting again. Not as therapy. Not as symbolism. Just because the colors started returning to my hands one day. Because I was no longer waiting on someone's approval to create something messy, bold, and entirely my own. My first canvas was a wild burst of yellow and indigo, like grief and sunlight crashing. Theo looked at it and said, "It looks like you." I didn't ask what he meant. Because I knew. On a warm Sunday morning, I woke up to find him in the kitchen, shirtless, hair wild, making pancakes with chocolate chips shaped into tiny hearts. "You're aware I'm lactose intolerant, right?" I asked, amused. "I also made oat flour ones. But these are cuter." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, just watching him. There was no version of me from the past that could have imagined this life. A kitchen that smelled like syrup and calm. A man humming out of tune. A home where nothing needed defending. But I didn't need to imagine it anymore. I was in it. That afternoon I hosted my closest friends for a soft housewarming. Just wine, cheese, stories, and bad dance music. We all piled onto the floor in loose linen and laughter, passing around memories like appetizers. At one point my best friend Lila nudged me. "You're glowing," she said. I gave her a look. "That's just the wine and good lighting." "No," she said. "You're the kind of peaceful I didn't know existed." I smiled. "Neither did I." She rested her head on my shoulder. "Promise me something? Anything. If he ever crawls back again, don't give him even a whisper of this life." I turned to her slowly. "He'll never see it," I said. Not out of spite, but because this joy, this freedom, was mine. And some victories don't belong to the past. That night, after everyone left, Theo and I sat on the balcony with a blanket over our legs. He pulled something from his pocket. A folded napkin. Inside a ring. Simple gold, no stones, just soft etching on the inner band. I looked at him, eyebrows raised. "I thought we said to wait," I whispered. "We did," he said. "And we did." I didn't cry. I didn't gasp. I just nodded. And whispered, "Yes." He slipped it onto my finger. Not to save me. Not to mark me. But to say, "You can build here if you want to." I never shared photos online. Not to hide. But because not everything beautiful needs an audience. Some piece is too sacred for scrolling eyes and old exes. Lucas, wherever he was, would likely hear the news someday. But he'd never see the life that grew from what he broke. And that was the softest, sharpest revenge. Epilogue. A year later, I stood in a white dress barefoot in a garden with 40 people I loved and one man I would never have to doubt. There were no vows about saving each other. Just this. I promised to let you grow and to never ask you to shrink to fit beside me. That was the whole ceremony. Short, earnest, uncomplicated, and enough. I kissed Theo under open skies and laughter and the scent of lemon blossoms, and in that moment I thought, maybe the best kind of love isn't the kind that saves you. Maybe it's the kind that hands you the key, steps back, and trusts you to save yourself. The end.